Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Phoenix, Arizona, it's time for Phoenix Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Welcome and hello. This is Phoenix Business RadioX, Karen Nowicki, broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studio inside Max 6 Conscious Workspace and the headquarters for Conscious Capitalism of Arizona. And we are here to connect you with the right people and help build businesses. And I am ecstatic today to invite back a friend who is with me here at Max 6 on any normal given day, John Dieter with John Dieter Solutions, and he'll be co-hosting this segment with me today. Hello, John, from afar.
Hi, Karen. Sorry I'm not in the studio with you there, but we really have a good group of folks to talk to today, so I'm looking forward to that.
We sure do. And you are chiming in from your home office as the rest of our guests are today. And it just makes sense, right? Given these times where we're just making sure that we're taking care of ourselves, taking care of our family and each other, and finding our new way or a way through kind of a new normal with what does work look like after this. And I know a lot of people I've spoken to in business and nonprofits, they're like, I kind of like this working from home gig.
Yeah, I've gotten used to it, that's for sure.
And I know you work a lot from home, John, too, right? I know you've got your office here at Max 6 as well, and we love seeing you, but it's also your role as an EOS implementer has given you the luxury to do a lot of travel to see clients when we can do that, but also work from home as well.
I've been doing over half of my sessions virtually now through my home office and sharing documents. And it's a little different situation when we're going through a session all day, sitting there looking at documents in the screen. We have to take more breaks, but they still go out and get the work done and finish up and doing what we need to do. So. And it's easy for me. I just walk out and grab a sandwich at break time and come back.
Right. Got your bunny slippers on as you walk down the hallway.
Well, I won't say what I wear on my feet.
Right. Oh my gosh. Did you see that picture of Max 6 team with they were dressed, for work and from the waist up, but then on the bottom we're showing what they would look like on the bottom. Yeah, it's really, I'll have to send you that photo. It's really cute.
I didn't see that.
Kyle and Chrissy and a couple other people. It was a real fun image of what's happening during these times. Hey, before we tell our listening audience who's with us today, could you just briefly introduce yourself as an EOS implementer and give us kind of the Reader Digest version about what you do and how you serve your clients? And then I would love for us to talk about the segue to how you and I thought this might be a smart opportunity to share a little bit about our guests.
Sure. Thanks, Karen. I wasn't expecting to do too much.
Well, I can't have you be on here and not tell the world who you are. It just would not be fair.
Any chance, I guess. After working with Max 6, I became an EOS implementer where I work with leadership teams to implement a complete management system, simple, practical tools that we say give them work on three things: vision, traction, and health. Vision, getting everybody on the same page with where you're going and how you're going to get there. Traction is execution, discipline, accountability throughout the organization. And healthy is building a healthy, cohesive team that loves working together in a great culture. And we teach tools to strengthen 6 key components of the business between vision, people, data, issues, process, and traction. And it's based on the book Traction by Gino Wickman.
I've got them right behind me, the whole stack, the whole series.
Yeah, that's right. You still have those.
I do. Yeah. Thank you for that gift. And
Let me know when I need to replenish those if you need to give any away.
When you were here, you were good about that. I was giving them away all the time and helping myself to another copy. So thank you for sharing that knowledge and your introduction. And it's been 3 years or 2 years that I've been here at Max 6. And before that, I was down the street at the Wells Fargo building.
Right.
John, you were my introduction to Max 6, were you not? I feel like you were the one who said you need to come and experience conscious capitalism and the good folks at Max 6.
I believe so. And actually what prompted it is you said something about your lease being up at the other building there in Tempe. And I said, well, Max 6 has some great co-op space and great community. And the rest is history, I guess.
The rest is history. They've become family. You all have become family. And now the Tempe Chamber is here. And
right.
A lot of large organizations as well as, down to the one-person show like me. So without further ado, why did you think this would be a good idea? Who's with us today and why did this make sense for us?
Yeah, who's with us today are 4 of the executive team, leadership core team at the Phoenix Zoo, Arizona Center for Nature Conservation. We have Bert Castro, the CEO, Bonnie Mendoza, the CFO, Christine Lowery-Nunez, the VP of HR, and Jennifer Flowers, the Director of Memberships and there's something else in that title. Sorry, Jennifer.
Membership, or
guest services and membership. Yes. So we have the dream team here, I guess, and they've been through a lot here with obviously the situation. And actually, you were the one that teed this up. You called me one time, and why don't you tell the story of how this session came to be?
Absolutely. And I know I reached out to you and Thomas Bart Local first after, and maybe my timing's off, but after the kids and I went and did the drive-through at the zoo, right? I don't remember the time frame, but midway through the pandemic, I think, when you guys were offering it, and I can't wait to hear if it's still going on, all that. We'll cover all that together.
That was Cruise the Zoo, I think.
Cruise the Zoo. Drive through. Whatever term it is. Cruise the Zoo. Thank you for making sure that we get the right terminology here. That is literally important. My daughter lives in Brooklyn. She works for Red Bull. She was home early March, and she is one of those kids who just has to be out doing something all the time, extremely social. And I have a 13-year-old at home as well, cut from the same cloth. So we were really wanting to spend some quality time together, of course, and it came across somebody else's feed on Facebook that they had gone. It might have even had been Jarrett with the nonprofit nerd, I think is what she calls herself. She had taken her son. And so I quickly got on the zoo website and grabbed a date. I actually couldn't go that date because of a meeting my daughter had to attend, and whoever was handling the reservation via email quickly got me rescheduled. We had a blast. I shared before we came on air with the zoo team here that I've been a longtime advocate and visitor of the zoo over years. I was a third grade teacher, and that used to be the field trip for us. And so to want to not only support what y'all were doing as you were supporting us, and it was a magnificent experience. Some people said, did you like it better than walking through the zoo? I don't know that I could say that, but it was just a whole new, unique experience. We go to Arizona at least once or twice a year, and I couldn't help but do some of the comparison. But what you guys did was that education piece. Got to click into the narrator and all the greeters and the friendly staff members throughout the whole thing, waving and smiling and making sure that we felt confident and comfortable, and we could take all the time we wanted. And the line was incredible both before and after. So anyway, John, I reached out and said, hey, we talked a while ago about having the zoo on with us, and can you help me make that happen because of this recent experience? And your response was, of course. And I think it's important that we share, and I know you guys all feel the same way, to share what is happening with the zoo as a result of this big change. And Bert and Bonnie, and of course, Jennifer and Christine, I want to thank you. I have to say, we had an episode a couple of weeks ago with Arizona Tech Council. Steve Zylstra does his show, and we get to co-host that show together. And we were fortunate to have the three presidents for ASU, NAU, and U of A, all three university presidents on with us on that segment. And I felt so honored, and I'm feeling that same honor right now with you guys taking time out, because I know how extremely busy you are and how many people and animals you have to help. So on that note, if I could tee it off to Bert first, if you wouldn't mind, CEO and president for the Phoenix Zoo. We said a lot. So if you could just introduce yourself, tell us how long you've been with the zoo and how are things going at this point?
So first of all, let me just say thank you, Karen and John, for inviting us to be here. It's certainly a pleasure and an honor to be here. I have been with the Phoenix Zoo for about 12 and a half years, but I've been working at zoos for about 35 years. Love Phoenix, love the Phoenix Zoo. It's a very unique facility. In fact, if you don't know it, we get about 1.5 million people that come through the zoo generally on a good year every year, and we're the most visited arts and cultural facility in the state of Arizona. I think the one place that has more people attend is the Grand Canyon. It's hard to That's one of the wonders of the seven wonders of the natural world. So
that really puts it in perspective.
Yeah, but like everybody, I guess, with the environment now, we were really hit back in mid-March when we had to close the zoo down because of the issue with COVID. We've been closed. We're actually closed for about 89 days it really hit us hard because, the zoo, our revenues are cyclical, although we're open all year round. During the summer months, our attendance really dramatically decreases, and March is our busiest month of the year. So we experienced nearly about $5 million worth of losses over that period of time. And we're a little bit different than some of the other arts and cultural institutions, museums, in that we have to continue to operate. We have 3,000 living animals here at the zoo. We have to serve 5,000 meals every day. And so when the economy is bad or when something really happens to the economy, we still have to continue to function. And so it's been a very difficult time for us, but it's caused us to think a little bit differently in terms of how we maneuver through this hard time. And we've done some pretty unique things to try to accommodate the situation that we're in.
Well, Bert, I think I remember the Phoenix Zoo is one of only a few, if the only one, zoos around the country that don't get public funding.
Well, you're correct. Many zoos throughout the country get, public funding. We're one of the few zoos that actually started off as a 501c3 charitable organization. And so historically, we've never really received any public funding for our operations. And we've got a really large zoo. Our operating budget is around $30 million a year. We're probably one of the top 10 to 15 in terms of operating budget. So we have a very large staff, a large collection of animals, a large physical plant, and it takes quite a bit to keep this facility up and running.
Yeah. But that's one thing when I look at it. You really have a business. You can't go back to the council and say, "Hey, we need some more funds to operate." It's you've got to earn what you spend, right? So kudos to being able to do that.
You bet. We run the zoo like a business because our revenues have really fallen off, and we've had to close the zoo. We've had to think of some other ways to earn those revenues. And, philanthropy is important to us. There are a lot of really great people and foundations in the community that have been very supportive of the zoo throughout the years. And during this tough time, we were able to put together a zoo relief fund that really had us go out to the community, and we've raised about $850,000 through the community. We really see the zoo as a community asset. Not only is it a fun place to bring your family, a wholesome place to bring your family to see the animals, but it's really the zoo's a gathering spot. It's a place where people like to come. We have people that come to the zoo to exercise every morning. We have people who come to the zoo for different events. We hold many nonprofit events for other organizations in the community here at the zoo because it's such a great place and a great layout to have those types of events. So it's been an interesting time, and we've done our zoo relief fund. We started our Cruise the Zoo, and maybe I'll pass that over to Jennifer to talk a little bit about Cruise the Zoo.
I'm glad you got the name right.
Yeah, me too.
Well, thank you, Bert. But I do have to give credit back to Cruise the Zoo. That was actually, as Bert said, we had to, once we closed, we had to think of, what the heck are we going to do? Bert and his core team with Bonnie and Christine and a few of his other cabinet, I think they had an idea before about, wouldn't that be cool to drive through the zoo? And I just remember, I think it was on a Friday, Bert and the core team drove through the zoo. They touched base with, the executive team and said, "Hey guys, we're thinking about, opening the zoo for a drive-through experience. Be thinking in your areas about, how we can make this happen." And by Monday, we got together that morning. They said, "We mapped out the route. We can make it happen." let's do this. And we pretty much, I think, made it happen, got everything organized, tickets programmed, and launched it in 3 days. We had tickets on sale within 3 days.
That's unheard of.
Real, yeah.
It is.
Congratulations. And we were joking before we came on air that a few of us are kind of teary, criers. I'm in tears listening to you share this story. What a way to pivot. And for you guys to drive through and like, can we really do this? And what would it feel like to be in the car? What was that like? I can only imagine the excitement, like, okay, we can really pull this off. Was that some of the conversations that were going on?
It was. I mean, we were driving through and we said, wow, this would be a great way where people could come to the zoo, feel safe in their own vehicle, and be able to see the majority of the zoo from their car. I was worried that people wouldn't be able to see the animals, but it was really fun to see how the animals were reacting to the cars, and they were actually coming up close to the cars. And
really,
and so people had air conditioning. They had their families with them. They felt safe. The staff did a fantastic job of helping our visitors out, and it was about a 35 to 40 minute experience. We just got rave reviews. In fact, it did so well that it crashed. We had so many people want to come to the zoo that it crashed our server, and we were down for several hours trying to figure out how we could get the server back up so that we could get the ticketing going. So it was pretty amazing. But what led us to that, and maybe Bonnie can talk a little bit about this, is what we had to do and some of the tough decisions we had to make with regards to our staffing and our operations.
Sure, Bert. Yeah, I was going to mention that, as we gathered as a core team and an executive team, we really did try to come up with ideas outside of the box. A lot of us have contacts with other zoos throughout the nation, and we conversed with them. There for a while, it was almost on a weekly basis or every few days. A lot of the CFOs were chatting about what's your zoo doing, because we know we've all got to scramble and hustle to do some things outside of the box. But yeah, this idea came about because we knew closing in the middle of March was detrimental to a successful fiscal year. Our fiscal year ends at the end of June, and that particular month was it's our best month of the year. So faced with that, we really became as resourceful as possible, put our team at work, and came up with a really good product, I think, that's been very well received, as Bert and Jennifer both mentioned. It was very emotional to see some of the cars come in with messages painted on their windows. We miss the zoo, we miss the animals, and it was heartwarming to see the support that we were giving. They were thanking us for giving them an opportunity to do something safe during this time frame, but we were really so appreciative of them supporting us. And we had to do this. We had to implement this with a lot of non-traditional guest service staff as well, because we had to make some tough choices in furloughing some staff, which I'll let Christine dive into a little bit more. But what that really did is it gave us a greater sense of family as a staff overall, because some of us were doing non-traditional roles in trying to successfully implement this new event.
Karen mentioned that there was an educational piece to that, and I haven't done the cruise myself. So what was that, other than just driving through and seeing the animals? What did you add to that?
Well, one of our education staff folks who is primarily responsible for doing all of the signage throughout the park. So all of the educational signage in front of the animal exhibits to give our guests, a complimentary experience to what they're visually seeing with our animal exhibits. That individual, Matt Strangways, he was able to put together a script along with about 3 or 4 of our other education staff members in that very short time frame, in an audio component that enabled our Cruise the Zoo folks to click onto phoenixzoo.org and get onto the audio tour. And as they drove through the zoo, they could hear educational aspects of the animal exhibits that they were encountering. And it really did make a difference. It was so much more of a rich experience.
Sure.
It reminded me of, I don't know, the docents or whoever stands near the exhibits and will share, information when you're walking through the zoo. Of course, it reminded me of that because I always like that part of it, to go ask questions and, just sit and bask in their knowledge. I will say at the very beginning, I think it was one of the introductory little snippets that we heard through our app was that we didn't have to worry about the safety of the animals because they're used to seeing vehicles come through the zoo, given obviously the caregivers and vets and all that stuff. And that was really neat. It was something that I had never even thought of, but surely a lot of people would have, like, okay, well, why are we doing this? And can we be sure that it's safe for the animals? So I don't know if anybody wants to elaborate on that, but I thought that was really helpful. It's those kinds of snippets that as a visitor really helped me settle into that community feeling that Bert first talked about, like, this is our zoo.
You're absolutely right. The animals are so acclimated to their surroundings. It's been quite interesting because many of our animals, we were noticing, were missing people. Our primates, we have a petting zoo down in the farm area where we've got maybe 20 goats down there, and they like to get brushed every day by our visitors, and that wasn't happening. We were just noticing a lot of the animals were kind of like, wow, where's everybody at? And I know that sounds anthropomorphic, but it was really true. And now some of our animals were like, hey, this is cool. Nobody's here. We saw that, but our keepers were really having to spend a lot more time, and they spend a ton of time with our animals, but they were really, our elephant keepers were going over to the orangutan facility to have lunch with the orangs. Keepers were going down to the petting zoo and brushing the goats and making sure that the daily routine of what the animals are used to were still happening. And so when we introduced Cruise the Zoo, I think a lot of animals were like, wow, this is different, but we didn't really notice any undue stress on the animals. They seemed to adjust just fine, and it's really been great for the animals and great for our visitors who normally wouldn't have been able to come to the zoo. So it worked out great.
And of course, some very much needed revenue. Yeah.
You mentioned earlier that it was almost like the animals would saw something different and they'd come and approach and observe the other direction, right? A two-way observation. What are these things driving by here? They've seen vehicles, but usually along the back paths or something.
That's right.
I can understand some were curious and made it more interesting for sure.
I want to go back to something Bonnie had highlighted, and I would love to invite Christine into the conversation, who's just so lovingly and patiently waiting for an opportunity. I'm assuming she's eager to speak. Can you tell us a little bit more about the effect on personnel, given that that's your area of expertise?
Well, I don't cry easily, and I hope I don't, because it has been absolutely devastating. When we had to close and made the decision to close in March, obviously payroll is our largest budget item, our largest expense. So we really had to go through and determine what we needed to do. And really the answer was we're going to have to do layoffs and do furloughs. And so we did that. We also did pay cuts. So we've done several different stages. We started off in March, laying off 16 people. We let go all of our seasonal staff. So we get up to almost 500 people in our busy season. So we let go of about 125 seasonal staff, furloughed our part-time staff. That's probably another 125. Let go of 16 full-time people. And then we were looking at pay cuts. We did a second round in June that included a staggered pay cut that is going through the end of September. So we're hoping to end that in October 1st. That's our plan. So, but I mean, going back to the positive, we were in a very dark place, and Cruise the Zoo was just this light at the end of the tunnel. And I can't say enough that the staff made that happen literally in 3 days. Everyone, it was all hands on deck. The keepers made signs for the animals saying, we're glad to have you back on the visitors that were driving the route. And it was just, it was amazing. We've had to be really creative with our job responsibilities, especially in areas where, since we're closed, we don't have work for some of our employees to do. So our event staff, our guest services staff, some of our education staff, and there's more work for other people, for our Grams quality staff who clean. So we have adjusted job responsibilities, and employees have been amazing. They have adapted very well. They understand that the need for these furloughs and cuts and the expectation that they have a job, those that have a job, they have a job, that they might be called to do something else. And that might be wiping down surfaces. And they have been just very willing and appreciative to do some of these other jobs that we've asked them to do. They have helped out in the living collections area, our nutrition services team who makes the food for the animals and cleaning dishes. Anywhere we need staff, we're moving people around. So it's been really great to see. We've had we've had great donors too. We had a private donor say, "Look, I know you guys are working so hard." The donor gave a couple of donations to give treats to the staff. So HR made these treat bags back in, I think it was July. And then just recently we had an ice cream truck come out for the staff, just small little things to hopefully keep them engaged and know that we appreciate them and that the donors are thinking of us as well. We appreciate and are grateful for those donors.
What about the conservation area? I know that's an area that a lot of folks may not know about or maybe not even appreciate, but I certainly think that's one thing that I pay attention to is what the conservation efforts are. You've saved some species, you're in the middle of saving some other ones and participating in all kinds of things literally around the world. So how has that been impacted by what we're doing, what you're doing?
Well, it has been severely impacted. We're still working with a variety of species. As you know, we do a lot of regional conservation. We work with highly threatened and endangered species that are found here in Arizona, like the black-footed ferret, the Chiricahua leopard frogs, and a variety of other species. The Mount Graham red squirrel, there's only like maybe 65 left in the world. So it has been a little bit tough to move forward with those conservation programs. Our researchers that have been doing some of that research have pulled back and are now working from home, following up just some of their paperwork with regards to those research projects. So we've been hit all around. It's been very, very difficult. As you know, people see us as a great recreational resource for the community, but we are also a conservation organization, and our mission is to really help and save many imperiled species here in Arizona, throughout the United States, and throughout the world. And loss of those revenues really affect our mission and our ability to accomplish our mission. So it's been a strain.
Yeah, I can understand that.
I have a friend who worked with Jane Goodall and was, I want to say it was doing a study with the mandrills for almost 3 years. And I remember when he was done with that work, was doing a zoo tour, and Phoenix was one of the stops for him, Miles. And I was so excited to go see and spend time in one of your classrooms when he did this beautiful presentation. And that was my first introduction really to the important role that the Phoenix Zoo plays when it comes to conservation and obviously protecting our wildlife. We've talked a little bit about Cruise the Zoo. That's why I didn't say it like that, because I can't pronounce it correctly. What I know, there are other creative virtual experiences that you're offering as well, or perhaps have offered and aren't any longer. Who would like to share with us a little bit more beyond Cruise the Zoo? What else is happening? How can we stay engaged and be participants?
Well, I'll jump in here. This is Bonnie. We have had a tremendous, successful summer camp for kids every summer. This summer, it's, completely different, but we have rolled out a virtual camp zoo and a number of other virtual programs for kids and families to participate in. We're still testing the waters on some, because some folks at home are still trying to figure out how they get their kids online to do virtual learning. But we really want to continue to be that place where kids learn about nature and learn about conservation. And so we have continued to do as many of those programs as we can that are successful. We shifted one of our fundraising events, Roars and Pours, to a virtual fundraising event as well. And we had a number of people. It was live throughout the evening, or it was about an hour and a half long. We had a number of people call in and donate throughout the evening, which made it nice.
Was there some animal views involved with Roars and Pours, or how was that? Was it just a social?
No, there definitely some animals were involved. We still played one of the favorite games, chicken poop bingo. If you've ever come out to our live event, people put their money down and bet what square on an area on the cement a chicken might poop first, and you win a prize. So that always goes off with a lot of fun. And the virtual event was great. We're really trying to adapt to this changed environment. In fact, our fundraising event in the fall, Zoofari, while we have canceled that for this year, we're replacing it with Wild Lights for Wildlife. It's going to be an exclusive preview of our Zoo Lights event. And it's going to be a drive-through event. We're asking folks to donate $1,000 per carload, and they can come out and be the first to view Zoo Lights. And we're adding a new aspect of Zoo Lights on our Tropics Trail. We're going to have some food trucks out that evening. So it's going to be held on November 1st. And we already have, we're about halfway there, right, Bert, to selling out?
Wow.
We are. We've got I think 125 cars that have signed up. One of the other things we've done is we started soon after we closed digital safaris, and it was a way to engage with our community digitally. So every week on Wednesday, our folks pick an area of the zoo and they take people live through this digital safari throughout portions of the zoo. And you go behind the scenes, you get to meet the keepers, you get to go into areas you normally wouldn't be able to go to if you were here just walking through the zoo. And so it's been a really great way to engage the public. And we've had so many people communicate with us that even though when things get better and the zoo opens back up, that they hope that we continue to do our digital safaris, because it's great educational experience for people. They talk about the animals, their natural history, what's happening at the zoo, and people have just really loved it. And then we have Fernando. If you've not heard of Fernando, boy, you're really missing something. We started working with a company called Cameo, and what you can do for a price, I think it's, I don't know, what are we charging now for Fernando, Bonnie? Like $75? I
think $75 or $100. He might be super popular at this point.
He started off at $25, and we found out that he sold out really quickly. So Cameo told us to up the price, and you can purchase some time with Fernando, and he can either come to a corporate event through video, or to a birthday party and deliver a message along with his keeper. And it's just been a huge hit. He's raised, I think, about $12,000. And it's just been an incredible experience for him and us.
So exciting. One of the themes that I'm hearing, of course, is all around being nimble. And we don't know how long this is going to last, right? I mean, and we all look forward to the day that you can reopen and that life resumes to whatever normalcy looks like for us. But you've got to continue to find those unique ways to care for your animals and serve the community and do the great work that you do on, as Christine pointed out, a lean budget and having to sacrifice some of those positions and then have everybody else chip in and help out. I'm curious, since we have the core leadership team here, you seem like you're a tight, group of people who work extremely well together. What have you personally and professionally had to be called to become as a result of this change? If you'd be willing to share, like for me, I'm having to learn to be very flexible. I mentioned before we got on air, I have to go home in between shows today and bring my son his computer cord because I mistakenly took it with me and he's going to miss a couple classes in junior high today if I don't get that cord back. So flexibility and resiliency, those sorts of things. Share, if you would, please, just, who are you being called to be as we experience this change and with your role at the zoo?
Why don't I start off? Maybe I'll tell you a story. I can remember having conversations with my dad and thinking at the time, why is my dad telling me this stuff? It doesn't really affect what's happening to me right now. But this conversation, I was a young man, and I'm a first-generation immigrant. My parents and I immigrated, and my sisters immigrated from Havana, Cuba during the Revolution, and we came to the United States back in 1962. And I remember having a conversation with my dad about change and about being flexible. And I can't recall why he was giving me this conversation. It must have had something to do with school and bad grades or something. But anyway, he told me, he said, change is inevitable. He said, you may not like it. You may be uncomfortable with it, but you have to embrace it because it's always going to happen. And if you don't embrace it, there could be issues. And I kind of think of it as a biologist and have my formal training in biology is that when animals don't evolve, when they don't change, they go extinct. That's kind of what we've tried to do here as an organization is to be very flexible, to be able to pivot, to be able to look for new ways. I'm not one that particularly likes change. I've never liked the idea of people working from home, but I've learned differently, and I've been able to see the advantages and how it has worked well for us as an organization. Unfortunately, it's taken COVID to get me there. But, again, taking the advice of my dad, embracing change, I never thought that, 40 years later, I'd be thinking about that conversation, but it happened.
He knew you would be, right? Yeah. That parental instinct. Thank you so much for sharing. Who else has either a story or just something to share around what you're being called to do and who you're being called to be?
Well, I was going to jump in here and just say, I have years of accounting experience from public accounting to for-profit and now 17 years at the zoo of nonprofit. I could not have prepared for the Paycheck Protection Program and all of the red tape and changing atmosphere of that from week to week and what that entailed. It has been a grueling exercise. We were very fortunate as an organization to receive $2.7 million from that program to enable us to keep a lot of our workforce. So it was very rewarding having gone through the process, but that was something that was extremely taxing for our accounting team during the early days of closing the zoo. And I think similarly, Christine has had an unusually large amount of work dealing with employment law, unemployment benefits from both a state and a federal level, and that she can probably speak to as well.
I don't mind change. I love change, but it's the unknown. So I tend to be a planner, and, we have emergency plans in place we prepared for maybe in the event of an active shooter or a dangerous animal escape or a fire or a really bad storm that we've had before. But this was really difficult. we still don't know. We don't know when this is going to end. And so it's just knowing that we may not know. And it's so, it's okay, but making sure that we're balancing and communicating to our staff, like balancing what we do know and what we don't know, and making sure that we're communicating effectively to the staff has been a really tough balancing act. I think that has been probably the most difficult for me, where I've had to kind of just stop and not react. The people here on this call can attest that I've had some reactions. Just chill out and take a step back and think about things before, reacting. So
that's a good segue for me. I don't mind change either, but this definitely has pushed the change limits. And it's ever changing. And you almost get tired of, okay, now this is different. Now this is different. And on top of it, that unknown of what's happening all over the world, also in everyone's personal lives, their health, now with schools. So we're also dealing with a lot more, uncertain factors in every aspect of people's lives. So for us too, we've really had to be coaches and counselors on so many different levels. It's their livelihood, it's their paychecks, but it's also their health and their welfare of our staff. And then when we consider doing Cruise the Zoo or reopening the zoo, it's also the health and welfare of our animals, of our guests. And it's just hitting us from all sides. And the longer that this is gone, we kind of ebb and flow and have COVID fatigue. And, we want to make plans to have it reopen. But then, like Christine said, things are so uncertain. And we have to be okay with continuing to be flexible and just pivoting, anytime we can. We want to make sure when we reopen that it's safe for everybody. But also we may have to close again. That happened to us over the summer. And it was disappointing for everybody. And that's the challenge too. COVID, it brings a lot of, differences of opinions from the community, from the world. And our staff have actually had to deal with a lot of that. Our call center that books the tickets and things like that. We've had people call and say, well, this place is open. Why aren't you open? Or, when there was the mask ordinance, I don't want to have to wear a mask. And it even got political. And so that's also been, a challenge for us, how to navigate through those kind of things. What do you say? What position do you take? And I'm always proud of our organization and Bert and the leadership team. There's a lot of thoughtful, consideration for what we speak up for in our organization. And at the end of the day, we stand up for what is right. But it's been very emotional for everybody. And we also know we're so important to the community, and it's everybody cares. So I think a lot of passion, fuels a lot of that emotion. And everyone just wants to see the zoo do well. At the end of the day, everyone wants to make sure the animals are taken care of and that everyone stays safe. So,
what is the prognosis for reopening? Are there guidelines that are now issued? I haven't really been following up on I've been following up on when the gyms can reopen, but not when other things can reopen. What's the latest for you all being able to reopen? Are there guidelines or anything?
So I don't think there are any restrictions on us particularly. We're looking at mid-September for a reopening because we're in our summer months and attendance is generally very low anyway. We're keeping a close eye on COVID positivity rates, and they seem to be dropping. We feel that mid-September is a good time to hopefully open.
Okay.
And the weather will be getting nicer, and we're just hoping that we'll be able to get open and up and running.
Interesting. Hopefully that works. But the other thing is all these other things that you've been doing, seems to me most of those could be continued on, particularly in the summer months, right? When things are down, at the cruise, the zoo, and air conditioning, car, and so forth.
I think we'll be considering Cruise the Zoo for the future. That's for sure.
Yeah.
We do open up. We will have a cap on attendance. We will have high touch point areas closed. Many of our indoor areas will still be closed. We're not mandating masks. We're recommending highly that people wear masks while they're in the zoo. And if they're, 6 feet or more apart from other people, I don't think we can mandate that they have to keep their masks on. But we're going to encourage that and hopefully be as safe as possible.
Yeah.
We've got disinfectant throughout the zoo and doing everything possible to keep it as safe as possible.
Right.
How can we help then, Jennifer? Well, each of you really have mentioned how the zoo is just an extension of our community. And to Jennifer's point a moment ago, everybody wants to see the animals healthy and feel like that it's part of our community. But that doesn't happen without all of you. And it doesn't happen without income and opportunities to support you. So how can we, as the Metro Phoenix and really state of Arizona, help you? And since this is Business RadioX, how can you encourage businesses to get involved as well?
Well, we continue to appreciate our nearly 30,000 household members who continue to support us. Some are saying we don't have to extend their memberships, that they'll just stay on the same schedule. And we're so appreciative of that. We definitely look toward businesses of every size to continue to support the zoo, either through events or through our exhibits. We have other retail opportunities at the zoo to support by way of sponsorship. So we're always open to that. Pretty much all the traditional ways that we've seen in the past, and then any new events that we're creating, we have the opportunity to give your company exposure through our Zoo Lights event that's coming up. We're going to increase the length of that. It's going to be about a 90-day run this year so that we can cap attendance and have hopefully the same number of people, but spread over a longer period of time for a safer experience. We're going to have approximately 30 of those nights be drive-through Zoo Lights. Again, for those folks that either have mobility issues or have some discomfort with walking through crowds, we're going to offer a hybrid Zoo Lights. So there's all sorts of opportunities for corporations. We still are planning and putting on the calendar corporate events, not only for Zoo Lights, but for the springtime, in hopes that we will be able to get to some sense of normalcy in having folks gather at the zoo.
Are you charging for the digital safaris? Just a question.
No, the digital safaris, there's not a charge.
Those are just on Facebook.
Some of our other formal programs, there is a cost.
When you were describing, or whoever was describing it, we've been on a few of the behind the scenes tours, which are phenomenal when you get to talk to the keeper and you're seeing the animals, some amazing animals up close and personal. Again, that could be a virtual behind the scenes kind of a thing could really work as well for that. But that's why I was asking, just because those are so really awesome.
And I don't know how you are managing with your members to ask if they'd be willing, or if they're just volunteering to say, hey, my membership's coming up, I don't need you to extend it. I instantly, and perhaps you already have it, saw this button on the renewal page that said, hey, yeah, I need to extend, please extend, or no, please, I'm ready to renew. So I am ultra impressed with everything that you've done and the way that you've shown up as a team. I have no doubt that your teammates would all say the same. It's very impressive, and thank goodness that Bert has a couple people who are okay with change, right, Bert? if you're not liking it, you hired the right team to say, help me navigate through this.
Well, they've helped me come a long ways. I can be pretty stubborn, but when you're surrounded by really great people, it's probably wise to take some advice every once in a while. And I've been at least glad that I've taken that advice.
Love it. And the telecommuting piece you mentioned that might be encouraged. I'm surprised by that, right? Because for me, a very naive perspective, it seems like such a hands-on career and job when you're at the zoo. But I would imagine there's some aspects, of course, that telecommuting would be acceptable.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's worked. If you're a zookeeper, you kind of have to be here because you have to feed and take care of the animals and all the things that come along with that. But if you're working in marketing or some other areas, you might be able to do some work at home, and it's going to be just fine.
Love it.
Yeah, I just wanted to add there, not all positions obviously can telecommute, and some people want to, and we can't allow them to because we need them here. But it has worked well in those kind of office type positions that can do work from home. Those employees have been very productive.
Yeah, that's
the hard part of that is making sure that it's not personal, right? You're setting those guidelines by the position and what has to happen to the greater.
Yep, that's right.
Not they can't take it personally. So
yep.
Well, and setting them up for success, right? Not everybody is able to work from home effectively. I used to manage a team of writers throughout the country, over 100 writers, and they all worked from home. That was just kind of how they came into the position. But I quickly found out those who were project-minded and could manage that, and those who couldn't. So we started developing some, obviously ways to help them be more effective in their space. And then that whole camaraderie, like staying in touch with each other. I think, Jennifer, you were the one who alluded to it. You have to make sure that you're understanding from a leadership perspective, there's other things going on in people's lives, and we can't allow that to stand in the way of what we need to do on behalf of our career for very long. So it sounds like you guys have got a great handle on all of that. We just have a few minutes left before this segment concludes, and again, it's just been such an honor and so much fun. I feel like I just had that back stage tour that John talked a little bit about, and I'm going to have to take advantage of those opportunities when you guys reopen. As we close out, if each of you would be willing to share your favorite, either favorite animal or favorite part of the zoo, or favorite activity or event that you guys hold, it doesn't matter. It's just what is your favorite thing about the Phoenix Zoo? We'll close with that, and then whoever gets to go last, whoever that is, if you could also share with us how to stay in touch with the zoo. I know, of course, there's a website, but let us know where you are on social media as well. John, can you start for us? And you and I are, kind of the outsiders in a sense, but what's your favorite aspect of the zoo?
Like I think I just said that the behind the scenes tours. As Guardian members, we have access to that, and was able to take my son and daughter-in-law and 2 grandkids there about a year ago now. Actually, it was just amazing. And when we do that, there's always the keepers. Remember Julie from being at the zoo, and so they say hi and they give us a great opportunity. So that's my favorite. And
I'll go next. Fennec Fox, is that right? Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I don't know why, because it's just this small little, window exhibit. But when I was teaching 3rd grade, it was, they would all have to pick an animal. And at this time, my son's now 26. At the time that he got to go with his class, I was never his teacher, but that's who he studied. And the excitement from this kiddo's perspective around really like owning that animal and learning everything they could about it, and couldn't wait. I get to be a chaperone that day, get through the zoo to that exhibit. So every time I've been there since then, it's just that special, warm, like, okay, this is my little exhibit because it reminds me of my little Grady, who's now an adult. So that would be my piece. Who else?
So for me, my favorite 2 animals, I love elephants because they're so intelligent and so smart. I love jaguars because they're so powerful and kind of scary, but I love them. But my favorite part of the zoo is this little area in the forest of Uco. We have this little, and zoos build multi-million-dollar exhibits. I mean, we're designing this African trail exhibit that's going to be a $7 million project, hopefully down the line when things get better. But there's a small little barn that we keep barn owls in. That was a $5,000 exhibit. It's my favorite exhibit in the zoo. And it's not expensive, but it's very naturalistic in terms of if you were in South America and you would come across, you're out in the country and you come across an old barn. That's what this barn looks like. And the owls are in there, and it's just so peaceful and so authentic. And that's my favorite spot in the zoo.
Bonnie, need to put your...
Are you going?
There you go.
Yeah, Bonnie was going.
There we go. We're talking over each other again.
I was just going to say, you can see right above me that zebras are one of my favorites. But a second favorite that is even more exciting now because of babies is the Mexican gray wolf. And their exhibit is one of my favorites. It's in the Arizona Trail, which is also one of my favorite sections of the zoo. Being from Arizona and being a visitor of the zoo since I was little, I just love that we can share our native species in the Arizona Trail. And that Mexican gray wolf exhibit that we've had now, a couple of litters of puppies, it's been really nice to see those young pups grow up.
I was going to say, I could spend hours watching Babu, our male lion, and actually any male lion. I think they're just beautiful and scary too. But it was the best experience that I've had so far, besides just working here with these great people, was a behind the scenes tour of lions several years ago, and just seeing them up close. They're just amazing animals, and I'm so excited when we'll be able to expand the Africa Trail and have our lions in a bigger exhibit.
And it's hard for me to pick a favorite animal. I love them all, but I think one of my most favorite places here at the zoo is our African Savannah. As you first come in, the big savanna, and actually really looks like places in Africa. I was blessed to be able to go there back in 2005 and seeing the giraffe and the ostrich and the vultures and all the different birds and things. It's really unique. A lot of zoos don't have that ability. We've hosted conferences where zoo colleagues come around and say, "Oh my gosh, this is just beautiful." And we've got the beautiful Papago buttes in the background. So that's one of my favorites, because also the keepers do a great job of bringing the giraffes forward to the feeders. And you just see kids and parents and grandparents standing there just in awe of all the different animals they get to see. And so on that note, if I'm the last one to go, to stay connected with us, we do have an amazing website, phoenixzoo.org. And then you can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram.
Awesome. John, was this as much fun as you had hoped it would be?
Absolutely. And I can't believe the hour's up already.
It goes so fast. And again, I thank you, John, for coordinating this opportunity with our friends at the Phoenix Zoo. And again, I know you are extremely busy, even more so, as a couple of you alluded to, given the situation. And I am honored to have you take your time with us today. If you could stay on with me after we go off air, just so I can take a photo on the screen and have an opportunity to properly thank you and tell you what's next for the podcast. You've been listening to Phoenix Business Radio, broadcasting live from Max 6 Conscious Workspace. I'm Karen Nowicki, and I am excited to have you join us every week, several times a week, with different shows. Some media leans left, some lean right, and we lean business. Until next time, we'll see you soon.